up, everybody, and welcome back to Whiskey and Windage, the 2A podcast for the people by the people. I'm Matt. I'm joined by my boys Mike and Adam. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Man, doing good, man. Just enjoying the weekend, getting ready to ramp up for the real job. You know the deal. Yeah, man, I'm good. Adam, what about you?
Dude, I'm good, man. I'm blessed. I'm thankful for life. Life is never easy, but I'm thankful to be here with you guys and doing what we do. So that's where I'm at.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, we have an amazing show planned today. An up-and-coming gear company in the 2A space. We've got Mr. Jeff from Subsecond. Adam, tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, man. So Jeff and I have talked for a while. I've been watching his company for the last 6 months, and they've been around longer than that. But just watching the people that he's working with and the people running his belts. And I'm a gear. You guys know this. I'm a geardo. I love gear. I love kit. So I'm a geardo, 100%. So I love gear. I love kit. I'm excited to have him on because I've been watching his stuff for a while. I actually bought a belt from him a little while ago, and I'm going to let Jeff tell the rest of it. But at the end of the day, man, he's a veteran, and he's doing his thing, living the American dream.
Awesome. So excited. Well, if you guys got nothing else, let's get right to it.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
So I want to welcome in Jeff from Subsecond. Jeff, welcome to Whiskey and Windage, man. We are so happy to have you on the show today. Dude, we've been talking for a while, you and I've been following you for a while, and I'm happy that we finally were able to make this happen.
Yeah, dude, no, super excited. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to do this, and I was able to knock out a couple episodes on my drive down here. So, yeah, it was awesome to just. And I guess you guys are almost a year now, right? It might
Getting
actually be almost a year right now. So that's awesome. I'm pumped to see you guys moving forward.
I'm amazed you're still here. You listen to a few episodes and you're still coming on. Like most people come down with like pneumonia or something. They're like, we can't make it. So
Yeah,
I love
sorry.
No.
I appreciate you.
Very cool. Which ones did you? I have to ask now. Which ones did you listen to?
It was honestly the last two. So
Good.
Yeah, it was literally the last two.
Okay.
If
Nice.
you go listen to our first stuff, I'll be the first to tell you, man. It's all
Yeah.
man. You cut your teeth, man. I go back and it's all cringe.
Yeah, well, dude, what do you say? That you got to get 100 reps before it even starts counting or something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But especially YouTube, I know you gotta put it out, and then anything 2A, like it's tough to penetrate that market.
Yes,
so.
it is.
It is. Well, Jeff, man, tell us about yourself, dude. Just to kind of give yourself an intro so people that don't know about you or Subsecond. Talk yourself up, man.
Yeah. Well, shoot, I'm not the best to talk myself up, but originally from Connecticut, living down in Florida, and Subsecond kind of started from a need, right? It was in the qualification course, the Special Forces qualification course, and I needed some gear sewn up, and there was a lot of guys spending a lot of money at the sew shops, and it kind of just stemmed from that. It was like, hey, instead of spending money on the sew shop, how much is a sewing machine? And then one thing led to another, and then it accidentally turned into a business. There was never a time that I was like, it's a good idea to do on active duty, run a business, So yeah, now I'm out. I was down at 7th Special Forces Group. I was a weapons sergeant. Did about 10 years in the Army. Before that, 11 Bravo at 3rd ID. But
For your service.
yeah, man. No, and I love to shoot. I love all things guns, and I really like to nerd out on gear, and it's specifically belts. It's been about 7 years now that I've been focusing on pretty much this one product, which was good, and then also some drawbacks to it, but it's helped develop what we have now. So.
Hell yeah, man. So I did my research on you because you did have a podcast you kind of did yourself. And if I'm correct, you had to learn how to sew. You bought the sewing machine, but you didn't. So you watched YouTube videos of how to sew dresses, learning how to sew, correct?
Yeah, so I started off like, all right, is there some sewing channel that shows tactical gear, right? Something along the lines. No, there's not. Maybe that's what I should do. Start a YouTube channel. So, but there was nothing. So I was kind of forced to just dive down these different rabbit holes, and they were normally like home ec style sewing of like, hey, this is how to mod this, or this is how to put a zipper on this dress, or something like that. So I watched that. And then it was just like stumbling through because I never sewed anything before. The first projects I worked on was VS17 panels in all our hats, name tapes on uniforms, cat eyes for reflecting, and then some white engineer tape on all the uniforms. So that was like my first sewing projects.
Right.
And one thing led to another. I ended up sewing up some other guys' packing lists, and I actually paid off the sewing machine. And then I was like, all right, cool, that worked. I paid for my packing list. I made a little bit of money, and then I kind of called it quits there for a little bit, for a few months. It wasn't until the Bravo course where I came to the point where I needed a belt, and that's when I ended up kind of diving more into the business. So,
well, that's crazy because most guys in the military, like, especially your E5, E6s, like, we don't make a lot of money. Even at E7 level, it's better, but it's still not great. Like, we know how expensive kit is, like, but it's crazy because most people don't think about, like, let me make a belt. I'm always like, well, what belt can I go buy, or this and that. Like, you were just like, I'm just gonna make one. So, like, what was that like? Like, how did that happen? Because sewing up stuff like on name tapes, cat eyes is one thing, but how did you transition to be like, I'm gonna figure out how to make my own belt?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny how it came about. But I just moved. I just got married. I moved into my house. I had no furniture, so we had literally zero furniture in the house. I'm literally sitting in the tub because that's the only place that we had a spot where I could sit down. And I'm on my laptop, and I'm literally all the way at the cart in Ronan's website, Ronan Tactics, and I was about to enter my credit card information. That's how close Subsecond was to not existing at all. I was literally about to enter my credit card information, and I was like, dude, I can make one better. And I literally actually didn't shut it yet. I closed out of Ronan, went right to Amazon, and then bought what I thought was material that would work. And then I took the belt buckle. Once I got the material in, I took the belt buckle off my like OCP like issued belt, like the really cheap one, and that was the first belt buckle that for the 2-piece belt. It started off, and it worked for the entire Bravo course. And I was like, dude, this is sick, and I didn't really think of anything of it. But that's kind of how it stemmed.
That's crazy. Like, I'm a guy that likes to do things like, hey, like, if I think I can do something, I'm going to do it. Like, oh, I'm going to build this piece of furniture. I'm going to go build this, or I'm going to make that. But where I draw the lines, like clothing, I know how to sew, and I learned how to sew from making like cornhole bags and hemming your pant legs because I'm kind of short. So it's like, man, like that's where I learned. I would never think make something that like a belt. I don't think I could do that. Like, that's crazy how you just said, oh yeah, I'll try that.
Yeah. And the first one, I wish I still had the first one because it would have shown like a really cool progression. But I had no clue. I wasn't like, hey, let's start a company at all. Like, not even close. So I ended up cutting it up, and I think it ended up in the trash or something like that. Because I was like, oh, it's just some junk that I don't need anymore. I'll just make another one.
I was going to say, so your first sales, were you selling them to guys in your unit or guys in the military that were with you? Like, what was the feedback you were getting, and then did you take that feedback and did that help transform your belt into what it is today, I guess?
Yeah. So I think that gave us, at the time, I'm like, oh man, I don't have the bandwidth to work on other products, because people ask me, well, hey, why don't you do other products? At the time, I thought it was like a hindrance, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it was actually a blessing, because it would give me the ability to hyper focus on one product, and then once I would get it in the hands, it was built by the end user for the end user. So there was no loss in translation between what the guys on the ground needed and then what the guys building it. Because even if I sat down, I'm the end user, and I sat down with someone that ran the sew shop, right? There's still going to be some type of translation loss, because I don't understand the capabilities of what you do to build it, and then they don't fully understand what you need to do. So when I was able to blend that, and I was actually able to go from the team room and the range and all my buddies' feedback, and then directly drive that right into the product and then refine it and just go back and forth for 7 years on really just nerding out on just the waistline. It's given us a distinct advantage, and that's why we have a lot of guys running the belts, and they don't, honestly, I've never really heard anybody switching out of them. And then the ones I built 5 years ago are still running strong, and they're nowhere near the material choices, the sew quality. We've just continually improved them. So,
and not for the cool factor of, oh, hey, somebody's wore this belt that's been in combat, but I say that just because of the strenuous, I guess, environment they're subjected to. Have any of your belts officially or unofficially seen combat or seen action?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, a lot. Which is pretty cool because the graduating class that I was with, so probably the class ahead of me and then class behind, we were kind of the last SF guys to see combat in Afghanistan, so I know a handful of them got sent there. We've had a bunch in Syria, and then a bunch of other all over the place. Tons of law enforcement, SWAT teams.
That's got to be badass to know that, and
it's cool.
And I'm sure you're still involved in the day-to-day and the building of the belts now, but to know that at that point, something you made maybe in that bedroom or something you made in that garage or in your shop, like something you put your hands on and made helped, kit out a guy to carry his gear and do what he has to do for this country. That's got to be an awesome feeling.
Yeah, and then do it effectively too. So it's not only that he used it, but it's like, and I always ask guys on the range when they're running our stuff is like, did you notice you're wearing it? That's usually my question. And they're like, no, I didn't. I'm like, good, because it's a simple thing. It's a belt. I just want it to work, and you can think of other things, like keep your situational awareness outward, not like adjusting and making adjustments and like, oh man, my hips hurt, or this thing is rubbing me. Like, after a ruck or something, or you have a small blister or something that's just bothering you, it just takes a small percentage of your bandwidth away. But now it's like that's a piece of my bandwidth.
Amplifying. It starts amplifying itself.
It's like, well, if I'm thinking about this pain or this I'm uncomfortable, it's actually important to be comfortable, because now I can actually focus outward.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, it's super cool to get the feedback from all walks of life, from the dudes up at CAG or other group dudes. Some, I don't have many SEALs, but a few SEALs, guys from Coast Guard to different SWAT teams, and it's awesome to get the feedback, and then also to see a belt that's been used for 5 years, and I'm like, dude, can we get you another one? And they're like, nah, bro, still works. And I'm like, all right, cool.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah.
So Jeff, how is Subsecond? How do you differentiate yourself from other close competitors on the market?
Yeah, so company-wise, I think kind of what we talked about before, like built by the end user for the end user, and we're going to try to really focus on that. And then also, when I develop a product and products going forward, I'm going to look at what the end user needs and then backwards plan off that, not what can make the most profit, and then still kind of do the job. So there's going to be a lot of, might be harder to build, it might take longer, it might cost more, but I'm trying to give the end user exactly what they need without cutting corners. Because there's a lot of companies out there that they build stuff that does work, and if you're on the range for an hour, you can get away with pretty much anything. I mean, we could take 550 cord, tie your shit to it, and it'll work. Like, right?
It will.
Yeah, it's true.
We're building stuff for the guys that are on the range, or not even on the guys that are going down range, that are going to be in them for 16 hours. Like, that's when you really start noticing some of those differences. And then in the product itself, the big difference is that it's a 2-inch belt. Everybody kind of builds around that Austria Alpine Cobra buckle, which is 1.75 inches, 44 millimeter, and it's a great buckle system. They kind of have a monopoly on the market, but they're building around the buckle because that's what the buckle is readily available at, not because that's the size. So when dudes build 1.75 inch belt, it's not because it's better, it's because it's easier to manufacture, because that material is easy, you just fold it over, it's a lot less work. And I didn't look at it like that, because I'd never looked at it like, hey, I'm going to build a company. It was like, what do I need? Well, I need the belt to be 2 inches. So it distributes the weight a little bit better, and I could put more Velcro contact on the backside. And then because it was 2 inches, it allowed me to put the elastic webbing that you see around the outside. And then like little things like the Sharpie loop. I did that almost on my first belt, and I don't understand how no one else stole it yet. But
I love it.
It's a good idea.
It's a big deal, because I lose my Sharpie. How many times I go down range, you mark your targets, you come back, fuck, where's the Sharpie at?
Yep, exactly. And then that's another question I ask guys, and I'm like, how old's that Sharpie? And they're like, what a kind of weird question is that? And they're like, I don't know, like I just grab it. And I'm like, mine's a year old. And they're like, no. And they're like,
Sharpies don't last that long.
How do you keep it? I literally run out, like my Sharpie runs out and I use it a lot, but it stays on my belt. It stays part of the system.
That's funny.
It's easily accessible. But it's those little things that add up that make the difference, but also makes the product a little bit harder to manufacture. So
I think that obviously we've kind of answered this question already, but has there been any innovations to your belt design since the inception as a company, or are you still making an iteration of the Type 1?
Yeah, it's honestly it's pretty similar. A lot of the innovation came in the quality of the manufacturing, and then the attention to detail. You can definitely see the difference between the ones we did 6 years ago. Just the small details, like do all the stitches line up? How straight is the molly? How even is that sewn together? The tags, those are new. We've adjusted the sizing, so we do a lot more SKUs. And it's another way that we differentiate ourselves is that we could do a small, medium, large. One guy, it's going to fit perfect, and then the other guy, he's going to have his molly stop, 3/4 of the way around the belt, and then he's not going to get the optimal fit. So we do literally double the SKUs. So we have one for size 30, 32, 34, 36. Those are all individual belts. Again, make it harder to mass produce because there's a lot more SKUs, but it gives each individual user more mounting area. More custom fit. It's pretty much a custom tailored belt. There's only a molly row is 1.5 inches in width, so you can only add or subtract one molly row. So that's literally what we do. We add and subtract one molly row, and it makes a difference, especially with guys that have like a 30-inch waist, 32-inch waist. Like, dude, by the time you put all your kit on that belt, dude, you don't have any extra room. Especially, there's a couple guys that we have that are big into shooting that are 30-inch belts, and dude, they just don't. After you put a couple mag pad, like the normal stuff, not anything extra, you can't fit anything else. So it does.
Not a real
state. Yep, it does.
Or
They need to
females,
eat
right?
some more stuff. They need
or,
some more
or
food.
females, because
Yep.
a lot of females are smaller than 30 inches, so that's hard for them too.
Yep.
So, I mean, Jeff, you talked about the end user, and you've gotten feedback from obviously you've gotten a lot of feedback from operators and cool guys, and you worked with all these great ones. But also, I want to talk about, because I know this, you build a lot for Leos, and I know you're building more for cops. I believe there's a couple for like the Chicago Police Department you're building some for, correct?
Yes. Chicago, LAPD, SWAT. They have. They're not officially running them yet, but we did drop off some demos.
Okay.
Got to link up with those guys. We're down here in Pembroke, just north of Miami. So some of those dudes, Pensacola. Yeah. So we got a handful, mostly with the special teams, because they have a little bit more laxed uniform standards. That is a big one for the patrol cop. Is that they need like basket weave, or they need something like fancy, which I'm not going to dumb down the product to satisfy some chief somewhere. I'm still going to try to build the best. If it makes sense and it's the best, then that's what we'll try to do. But I'm not going to say, hey, let's put less, less valuable material or material that is inferior to what we're running now just to satisfy some chief or something like that.
I think you're spot on with that, man, because, well, one, I think there's a changeover with a lot of police departments. I mean, we had a guy on, Andrew from Syndicus, that's sold AKs to California police departments now. They're running AK format. So I think there is a way to, because you're right, the old basket weave leather belt for cops, I mean, we all know a lot of these guys have back problems. I mean, these belts were not really designed for ergonomics. They were just designed for what the technology was at the time. I think your belt and the technology we've made in the military off the battle belt, we'll call it for right now, does take a lot of the weight. You know, it readjusts the weight correctly, and then there's a better way to run kit. And I think it'd be awesome to see that you push that or frontier that with police departments. Like, hey, it's time to change, because a two-piece belt for a police officer makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's kind of our mission going forward. Not only to provide the best possible products that we can, but the other thing I noticed from being in the service and then dealing with a lot of these law enforcement guys is that there's money for the gear, but the guys that need it get the wrong gear, right? So even in 7th group, right, you'd think like, oh, these guys got all the most badass shit issued to them, right? A new guy shows up to 7th group, they're like, hey, thanks for getting selected, thanks for making it through the Q course, now go spend $1,000 on gear.
Yep.
And you're like, wait, hold on.
What?
I gotta buy my own. I gotta buy my own multi-tool and gun belt and uniforms because they only give you 2 for your entire career. You're like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. But then at the same time, I get issued $15,000 worth of kit that most of it sits in my closet because it's somewhere in the big government contract. It's a line item that some guy that never has to run the gear is like,
right.
Nope, we are buying this $1,000 Mystery Ranch ruck. That's awesome, but honestly, I'd rather have a belt, you know.
Yeah.
So my mission also is going to be like, hey, how can I get through that and like actually get what the actual operators need and the end users, what do they actually need, and get them that, because there's definitely a loss somewhere, and it's kind of a broken system. So, because in hindsight, after going through the entire process of showing up to group, getting all my gear issued, and then having to turn it all back in, because we lose some stuff.
Fuck CIF.
Some dudes fucking walk off with your shit. Most of it's unintentional. Like, they're not just like, hey, let me steal it, but in a fucking truck full of multicam, like, dude, it's gonna get lost, right? And then the multiple deployments and stuff. But after seeing the whole entire process, it's sad to say, but I wouldn't have got any of my special issue at all. I would have bought everything myself. And it's like, wait, hold on, that shouldn't be the case. I literally would have bought my own helmet, plates, ear pro, eye pro, uniforms, because some of it was pretty good, but then other stuff, there's better stuff out in the market. And then when we go to turn it in, it's like, dude, that raincoat walked off the first week I had it, and it's like, oh yeah, that's a Patagonia, you owe us $500.
It's a $400 backpack.
Yeah, and then me modding my kit, right? So I had this Cry AVS kit. What do I immediately do? I just start modifying it to fit the mission set because I have the capabilities, right? So
yeah.
I'm not just going to run it because that's what it is. And then I mod it to the point where it's like, well, I can't turn it in now. Okay, well, now I spend $1,000. I bought my AVS kit, which is probably cool. I'll keep it in my
it's yours now.
In my man cave or something like that. But it's like, dang, man, I would have just bought my own plate carrier, and it would have been better, and it would have been mine, and I wouldn't have to deal with those dudes. So, but yeah.
So, I mean, can we just say real quick, anyone's in the military, I don't care what cool guy you are, I don't care at what level, CIF will fuck you. Yes.
Yeah. I had this is funny too, and I'm not really like too mad about it, but the way the Army said thank you to me for my years in service was to send me off with a bill and then underpay me for my last paycheck. So
They held that
they were
check.
like-
Held
got
that
you
check.
again.
They were like,
The
"Hey,
green
buddy,
weenie got you.
thanks for your service, and then here's this bill, and then got to track down my last
Good luck out there.
$1,000 or something they owed me, and I was just like, this is insane. But that was my thank you.
Man, so I'm looking right now. I'm on the website, and for anybody interested, it's www.subsecondllc.com. And I'm looking in the products right now, and just kind of running over these, I see the operator, you got the limited, the AHT operator, the Achilles heel, you've got
mine.
the patrol, and you've got the match 1.5.
So
It's my favorite. I mean, dude, that color scheme.
Dude, it looks good, bro. You throw that brown leather on the Ranger green. I mean, dude, it's
Man,
It's-
I gotta
it's
say that's a
pretty cool.
nice touch. I was looking at it, and of course, Adam made me a little salty. I saw the leather tag, the whiskey and windage, but yeah, even aside from that one, just looking at the small details, and I know this is I don't want to say it's the least important because it does serve a function, but the leather sub-second Velcro tab in the front, just that little detail. You could have done 20 other things, but you chose to go that extra mile, and it shows. So, kind of going back to, what we were saying on that, talk about the design process on that, and, what the important features of each one are.
Yeah, so it didn't always have the leather tag. I can kind of look at what type of tag was on the belt to tell you approximately what year and time frame that they were built, because there's a few different iterations, and we just kind of kept improving. And then with the leather, it gives us the capability of we have our own laser, so now I can do all that stuff in house. So I do the stock equipment, but now it gives me the ability to do something like that. Like Adam hit me up and he's like, "Oh, dude, can we?" Or maybe I hit you up. I forgot. We were like, "Hey, can we do this logo?" Somehow, yeah, he sent me the logo, and I
Freaking
threw
rad.
it at the laser, cut it, we sewed it up, and sent it over. So it just kind of gave us it. It's a nice touch. It looks really good.
It's amazing.
The leather that we use doesn't shrink or change size. It actually looks better. I would say it looks better over time. So after it kind of wears in a little bit,
yeah.
it kind of gives it that, I don't know, rustic type of look. And then gives us the modularity. Like I've already adjusted the actual shape of it. So it's super simple, but if you actually look at it, it's not just a rectangle. It actually has a relief cut in it, so it sits closer to the belt itself.
Like for me, maybe it's just me. Like I kind of get it's almost like an homage to like the old Western gunslinger belts because they were leather. It's almost like paying homage to the cowboys almost.
Yeah.
too. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. We're looking to do a full leather 2-piece belt.
Oh, man.
But like a mixture of the really like high end belt now, but then also the old Western belt.
I think you have a teaser, don't you? Have something that you posted? You posted a teaser on that one, I think, didn't you?
Well, we're always kind of working. I haven't done that one yet. I've definitely talked about that a lot because I have some cool ideas.
Awesome.
It'll be sick.
That's really cool though, because with the leather, I like leather just because leather is almost second skin to an extent. I mean, leather's forgiving. Leather's going to bend with the user. Sometimes when you get belts, until you've got them really good and broken in, and if you're not doing cool guy shit, like unless you're running that thing a lot or wearing it in every pair, wearing the outer as your belt for every pair of pants, like it's going to take a while for a civvy to break that belt in. So leather breaks in a little quicker. You're allowed to do a few things to it. I think that's a really cool touch. That's really neat.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, and then so we originally kind of got going on the different iterations of the belt, or the different product types that we have. So the patrol, so everything stemmed from the operator series. So we started with the operator, and then we kind of just took that system that worked for us in group, and then I just passed it off to some LE guys, It worked great for the SWAT team guys because they wear their kit pretty similar to military, where they're able to put everything around their entire waist. They don't need. They pretty much use almost the same exact setup. But then what we found is when we gave that to a patrol cop, a guy that's just like, hey, doing the normal 8-12 hour shift in the patrol car, he needed a little bit different setup. So that's kind of how we ended up developing the patrol series. It was based off their feedback, and then we almost just took stuff away because they don't need the modularity. There was a few other items, like they didn't need the D-ring, they really weren't using the Sharpie loop, so we tried to simplify, just give it exactly what they needed. So we kind of went through and simplified it, and then built the belts around them, and then the other type that we have on there is the match belt, and that's a cross between a tactical belt and then also a competition, because if you have competition like holster drops and mag pouches, they have to be on an 1.5-inch belt, because that's pretty much like the regulation. I think USPSA.
Yes, it is.
What class you have to have an 1.5-inch belt. So that's kind of our cross between it. And I've seen guys like even police officers use it, especially when they're when they're really light and they're just like, hey, just a pistol and maybe a couple mags or maybe cuffs. It's a smaller profile. It's a little bit lighter. It's a little bit easier to conceal. And those guys have gotten some use out of that as well.
Man, I'm just excited to see with the Leo versions of all these belts. I remember the Leo versions from when my dad was still active in law enforcement, and I'm just so glad law enforcement as a whole has moved away. And there's still a few people that use it, but getting away from that freaking patent leather. Do you remember all of that glossy black just nastiness that, like, for some reason that's what you needed? And it was like, I remember Dad having to sit there and like clean his belt because it had to look pretty. It had to be part of the uniform. And I'm like, God, I'm so glad they've adapted.
Yeah. And there's still some agencies that are holding out. Like, they're like, bro, we want to run it, but like, we can't. I'm going to get in trouble.
We still got to be dressed for the dance.
Yeah. So it's, we're getting there.
Awesome. So Jeff, like, honestly, like, we talked about the product, the new lines. I wanted to do a special mention before. I know Matt has some questions, but didn't you recently make a belt for a certain high-end client that maybe we want to talk about?
Yeah, we've done a couple now. But yeah, so we did probably the coolest one was Eric and Don Jr. Trump. That was pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So that was badass. Had the opportunity to build those systems for him, and then we just went full out, like leather, everything, red, white, and blue stitches. It was like red, white, and blue with brown leather on black multicam. It was like, yeah, it was badass. And then I literally, because I have the freedom with the tags, I put like MAGA edition on there and then put their names and stuff. So it was, went way over the top. And then probably the other well-known, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I guess probably the other, like, I guess famous person. We built one for Post Malone too, so that was kind of cool.
Posty.
Hell yeah, Posty.
Yeah, so he's really into shooting. So that was kind of cool. He didn't really post about it or anything, which I was kind of bummed. I was like, dang, I hope he does.
Yeah, that would have been a huge one.
But he sent us a little thank you video. Real quick, drinking. This was prior to all the Bud Light stuff. Drinking a Bud Light, because that's what we actually built it as, a Bud Light themed belt, and this was right before all that crap came out.
He still loves Bud Light, from my understanding. He's still drinking. Yeah, okay.
Come on, non-Post Malone, give him a shout out.
Yeah, come on.
We'll see.
Nope.
So.
We're gonna call him No Post.
Cool.
Hey, don't worry. That's gonna be a reel. We're gonna post it. We're gonna post Post Malone, and we're gonna tag him in it now.
Well, he's dropping a country album soon, so he's putting on a free concert here in Nashville in a week or so, and I've already been told all the details. I may try to go to it, but man, you're gonna have to make him like a leather one now. He's got to have like the old school now. He's gone country.
I have a plan. So it's not over yet. We got something cool in the works. So
hell yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully we can make it happen. But yeah, I mean, other than that, no. just kind of just the guys we serve, the guys that serve. You know, like I think that's honestly, it's cool to be able to build those people belts, but they're not the guys out on the front lines. You know, so it's cool to get the feedback, especially after they've used it for a while. Like it's cool to get some feedback from a guy that's like just received, oh bro, this is amazing. But I like to call some of the old customers. So I called, I think they were Navy MST, the guys that do like the shipboarding. Mm-hmm. But I called those guys just randomly going through the old customer log, just called it like, hey, how's the product? You got any improvemments? And those guys have been running it hard for like almost 3 years. And they were like, "Oh, dude, they're still running great. Everyone loves them." So those make the biggest difference for me, is when I can hear that they're getting used and the people are happy. So
that's got to be a tough ad campaign, honestly, because the guys you want to talk about most using it are the guys you can't talk about using it, and so you can't say, "Hey, I promise, Bill Smith from Dev Group loves my belt." Like, you just can't do that. So you have to say, like, "Hey, Post Malone likes it."
Yeah.
I mean, because you can't, like, the people who you want to use the most, unfortunately, for the right reasons, you can't do that. So it's got to kind of be it's a word of mouth thing, and so it's tough to advertise. So I do acknowledge that.
Yeah. Yep.
So Jeff, like, so admittedly, we haven't talked much, but admittedly, I'm kind of the idiot in the group, especially when it comes to gear. Like, I'm pretty freaking green.
He's
right?
spitting facts.
Yeah, all facts. Like, I don't know shit. But there's like battle belt and war belt and combat belt and fighting belts and competition belts and like all these terms in the industry. Like, are these, like, do they hold actual different meanings, or are they interchangeable? Like, what makes what type of belt that type of belt?
Yeah, good question. So for the most part, I would say they can kind of be used interchangeably. But I guess if you really wanted to dumb it down a little bit more, then you would have your like duty belt is kind of what I would call it, because it can be used for honestly more than even just military, law enforcement type applications. And then you have your competition style belt, and those are very specific builds for competing. So that you have those two, but then honestly, like most of the comps that I shoot in, I use my duty belt for it. And I leave it set up the exact same way because, I'm out now, but I like to get the reps, as many reps as I possibly could in the kit that I was actually going to be using. So my duty belt was also my comp belt, and I wouldn't really switch back and forth. I would literally run the same holster, same mag pouches, all the same stuff across the board. So then when I did go back to work, I didn't have to think about it. It just, everything was just there, and it wasn't like, hey, I need to readapt.
So would those terms be more, they're more determined, usually, more determined by the layout and just what it's being used for?
Yeah, so the duty belt, they're probably going to be wider in diameter, so you're probably looking at like that 1 3/4, 2 inch, and then any of the comp belts are going to stay right around that 1.5 inch mark. And again, it's kind of based off of the competition mag pouches, and then also the freaking rule in the USPSA. They kind of dictate the width of the belt system.
Okay. I appreciate the insight. Like I said, I'm pretty new around here, so like, why does everybody have like all these different names for all these belts? I don't even know what to do.
They're pretty much the same. They get all tossed around. I've heard some wild different terms and stuff like that, but yeah, usually I just say duty belt, just kind of it kind of encompasses everything.
So I also become sometimes I land under fire or catch some heat for and tons of other people out there too of dirty civvies running non-military, like running military and LEO style gear and just getting roasted over it. Like, what are your feelings on a dirty civvy who wants to use that type of gear or learn how to use it and set it up?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think everybody should be able to use that stuff. And then honestly, it if you're looking at it just like we were saying, like, hey, at the top tier, we want to be comfortable to keep that situational awareness outward. It's the same kind of concept with being on the range. Like, I don't want to have something uncomfortable on. I want it to hold my kit so then I can focus on what's important. And it could be having fun, right? It could just be like, hey, I'm just gonna go to the range. We're just gonna burn it down and have a good time. So yeah, I don't. People that honestly that are talking crap.
It doesn't matter if they have a Medal of Honor. It doesn't matter if they have a Medal of Honor. They're still an asshole if they talk shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know who has time. I think that's funny. Just talking crap in general, especially online. It's like, how do you guys have time for that? I don't
people do though, man. People, and there's
You're
military
not creating
people.
enough if you got time to talk.
There's
like that.
people that run their
I don't
mouth
know.
like, if you're not military, you should run it. I think some of them have a Medal of Honor that they want to run their mouth all the time. It's like, bro, like everyone has the right as an American to train, to run gear, and I hate the fact that. Yeah.
They should, like I think it's important. I think everyone should, and then it just makes us all better, right? If these guys are training, and these guys are training, and then we're all training, we're all getting better together. And then honestly, there's a lot of like civilian, you want to call it dirty civilian, that come and teach the top tier dudes, because the guys at the top realize like, hey, I have all these jobs, right? Shooting is a very small percentage of that actual job. Like, so I'm going to actually talk to the civilian guy that only focuses on this little piece of the shooting portion, because he's going to be able to optimize that, and I think that makes a huge difference.
For sure.
I don't know. Dudes talking shit on kit. I mean, like, you could talk shit because sometimes people wear some shit that you're like, what the that doesn't make
What
any
the fuck
sense.
is that?
Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I'm not about just wearing some random ass shit that, like, what are you actually doing? But if you're training with gear, I think you should.
No, and that's a key point. So Jeff, moving on to that, because obviously like operators and tier 1 dudes and police officers, their market, they're going to buy your belts. They have a education on how to set them up already, and they're doing their thing. But like you being a business owner, the market to make money, to be a capitalist, is the civilian market, because that's a far greater market. So like the guy that just wants to run a competition, or he wants to run a gun, be more proficient, or have a belt that he can do multiple things with, what is the ideal setup? Is it a Batman utility belt? Because I've seen guys, they have everything on their belt they can possibly have. Or like what should a new beginner that maybe doesn't have a lot of military experience, Leo experience, but wants to get into it, like what would be your let's call it your top 5. What would be your top 5 things for a duty belt or a battle belt, or what do you want to call it?
Yeah, so a good belt system to start with. So it's an inner and outer belt, and then first thing I'm putting on there is a solid holster. Holster and a holster drop is probably kind of one piece, because a lot of guys, they'll kind of cheap out on the holster, which the holster's it's a pretty important part. And then I think even if we backwards track on this, and it's like, hey, what are the top 5 things? Well, what are the top 5 things for your mission set? So like, what are you trying to achieve? And then we kind of backwards plan off that. But if I'm just saying, generally speaking, I'm probably going to get a good holster with a drop. Probably going to be like a Safariland, something with some retention, and then something that'll accept a light. So, because I think that's an undervalued item to put on a pistol. A lot of people they want to get all this fancy stuff, and it's like, dude, you should probably have a light on that thing so you can identify what you're pointing that thing at. But yeah, so I'd probably do good holster, and then a couple pistol mag pouches. Some guys go real sick, and they try to get like 4 or 5 on there, and it's like, dude, yeah, you could just I've seen some crazy stuff, but dude, start with 2 and then 1 rifle mag pouch. That's kind of been my go-to. And then if you can, I recommend everybody run at least a tourniquet on there.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So and it's kind of, you have all this offensive type stuff, and it's like, well, we should at least have a tourniquet on there, you know.
Yeah.
And I would say most civilian people that I see at the range, they're not running a tourniquet. Normally, it's a military guy that's using his like duty belt or something, or he just kind of has a little bit more awareness to like, yeah, I should probably, if I have a gun, I should probably have a tourniquet. You know, they should go hand in hand.
Should.
Yeah, they should, and then you should also train on it, because a lot of guys they'll have the tourniquet, which is great, but then it'll be like wrapped in plastic,
right,
or still folded up like it was coming from the factory, and you should just train with your equipment, so then you can apply it to yourself, and then hey, if you need to apply it to somebody else, then you can do that. But yeah, that would probably be my basic loadout, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. And then dudes, they usually try to throw some extra stuff on. You could do this, like, I've seen a bunch of weird knives and fixed blade stuff and hatchets. I've seen all types of.
Those are the AK people. Those are Matt's people.
I got a big ass knife on mine. I'm not gonna lie.
You never know when you're gonna freaking drop in. You know,
but
you
then
never
again,
know when the
I hang
civvy's gonna
machetes
do.
on the wall. It's fine.
Most civilians are prepared for the halo jump, and they got to cut free from their chute. You know, because that happens all the time with civilians.
Yeah, but again, and then it kind of, like I said, that's why it's important to look at that overall mission and then kind of backwards plan off that, because hey, it might make sense to have a bigger knife. You know, if you utilizing it all the time, then cool. I don't carry any knife other than the one that's on my multi-tool, because the chances that I'll need a fixed blade, you know, like I've just kind of weighed that out and been like, well, I'll just assume that risk of not carrying that extra piece of kit. And it's just that balance. It's like, what risk do you want to assume? How much shit do you want to carry? Because if you try to plan for every mission set with the belts, you'll literally have a bunch of crap hanging off your belt.
I mean, that's true. I mean, dude, you may be happy with the tourniquet because the combat medic in me is happy. But now Mike does also add a dump pouch because he needs a place for snacks on the range.
Nope. That shit's called a Skittles pouch, and I use it to its name. You got to put the snacks in there. It's perfect.
Yeah, I do have, and I call it an admin pouch, because that's really what it's really for. I've never seen anyone use it tactically. It's always been some type of admin type thing.
Yep.
I keep it on there, but I don't like anything dangling off me, especially if you have to do anything dynamic. It's like, there's been a couple training missions that, I won't say any names, but when you hear them running across the street and you hear ting, 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 because they have some two objects in their dump pouch and they're just sprinting across, and you're like, dude, can you fix yourself? Because you're making us all look bad.
Not very ninja of you.
I mean, you're dumping that mag in the midst of all of it, too. Like, you're dumping your mag, you're loading the mag. You're probably not like, let me dump my mag, throw it in my admin pouch, get my next mag out. Like, that's probably not what you're thinking about.
Drop
No,
that SOB.
I was going to say, mine typically for the Skittles pouch or the dump pouch, mine's pretty much like, hey, I put my gloves in there when I'm not wearing the gloves shooting, or when I'm done shooting or running a course or whatever, and then I pick up all my mags that, you know, during reload, I'll pick them all up, throw them in my dump pouch, and then walk back, pull them all out, reload.
Yep.
I think they make more sense for competition, and some competitions require that you retain your magazines, but I don't see a real practical application for a dump pouch.
That's why I call it an admin pouch. There is like tactical applications, like hey, you need to carry a charge or some type of other. It's good to have it on the belt. But I usually just keep mine rolled up.
Yeah.
Probably very rare you see it undone, just because I don't like anything dangled. But that's probably down the list. I probably would do the holster, mag pouches, tourniquet, and then from there, if you're going to add another item, probably an IFAC is probably the next item, because you could have it in the truck, but you don't necessarily know where you're going to get hit. Maybe you're by yourself and you accidentally shoot yourself, or need to. I actually used my own IFAC on somebody else the last time I was at the range. So
Damn.
we had a little medical incident, and they didn't need anything too crazy out of it, but I think it was like some alcohol wipes or something like that. But it wasn't too crazy. But I had it on me, so I was able to pass that off. But
I used mine today.
Yeah, he did. He got some brass in the face from a from a.
I don't mind dropping the name. It's Kalashnikov USA KP9. They're known. There was a batch of them apparently, and I come across one in that batch, but I had to add a battery discharge, and the whole side of that 9mm blew out. And I'm a southpaw, so I caught it. Glad I had glasses on, but no boo-boo care. Was glad I had my boo-boo care on my belt, so I was pretty happy for that.
There you go.
Man, so like looking ahead, looking at Subsecond, looking at what you're trying to do, what the future holds, you know, if you could look into the future, you know, let's talk about some materials. You know, do you see a shift in materials, you know, beyond traditional Cordura type stuff and nylon blends for tactical gear, or do you think that's just going to be what it is for a while, or do you, like you said, you're looking at leather, I know, but you know, if you could put your hat on where you could see in the future, where do you see the future of tactical belts going?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a combination of stuff. You see a lot of belts out there right now, and they're running a material called Tegris, and it's like a carbon fiber type. It's a fibrous material that's like, I'm not exactly sure of the process, but I'm pretty sure it's like high pressure, and then it forms a really strong bond. And a lot of guys are using it on the belts now, and I think there's going to be more of that to be incorporated going forward. I have some different ideas on how to continually, like, what's the next step? How is it going to get more modern? You know, Molly is probably one of the next things that'll probably shift. I would say a different way to attach the belt. Because Molly's good. It's simple, but I think we can kind of come up with a better idea. But yeah, material-wise, you see guys introducing it already, which I think is awesome, and I love the innovation in it. But sometimes when I look at a product, it's not because it benefits the end user, it's because it benefits the manufacturer. Specifically with like Tegris and the belt systems, because I build them, I know what it takes, and I know kind of like looking at things like, hey, would that be easier to manufacture or harder? You know, and based on the Tegris, most of the belt systems, that it's kind of a, hey, this is really easy to work with. We throw this whole sheet at the laser, it cuts a few of them out, and then it makes it easy for us to manufacture. But it definitely has some end user drawbacks to it, and it's not like, hey, what's the end user need? Okay, he needs it to be exactly like this. Like, I don't think that Tegris falls in that category of like, hey, this is benefiting the end user. I mean, maybe it benefits them, saves them some money because they can now make it a little bit cheaper. But it's ease of manufacturing is kind of what I see in that system. But I think there's a lot of systems that do use it in different locations and spots, and maybe even in certain combinations. I think it's going to start combining all these different materials, and whether it's aluminum, carbon fiber, Tegris, some leather, it's going to be a blend of these different materials, some type of composite 3D printing's coming along. Like there's all types of new composites popping up. So I definitely see some new material in the future. We're testing some stuff that's similar to Tegris, but.
Man, so I got one last question that's going to piggyback off of Adam's top 5, what you need to put on your belt. This won't be for your guys familiar with running these belts, but it's going to be for the newbies. Looking at your site, I see all the different available colors. I've got the black, coyote brown, ranger green, black multicam, and then multicam. But then when I go over and I look at size, I see 28, 30, 32, 34, 36. Then we start going double sizes up. But, you know, let's just say you're a 32 waist in the jeans that you wear. If you're buying a belt as a new guy, do you buy your belt based off of your jean size or your pant size per se, or do you need to go up a size? How does that typically go? What's your recommendations on that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I get this a lot, and we answer this probably at least a few times a week, whether it's an Instagram message or right from the website. But the belts are all very specific, kind of like we were talking about before, and they're really almost custom built to each end user. So what we recommend is you get an actual waist measurement around your waist with the pants on that you wear at the range, exactly how you would run it. And then once you get that measurement, we have a reference guide on the site that'll cross that actual waist measurement to the belt that best optimally fits you. So that's the best way to do it. The simple way is that 90% of all users can kind of order their pant size. It's pretty close to pant size. So for example, I'm a 32 waist, 32 pants and pretty much everything. If I measure my waist, I get 35 and a half, which is pretty typical. You see, most guys will hit me up and be like, hey man, I wear 32 and I'm like 4 inches bigger. And it's like, yeah, dude, that sounds about right. But then you look at our chart and it will pretty much tell you to order a 32 belt. There are some outliers. Everyone's built a little bit different. Ride height, especially in females, I've seen, their jeans can really change based on where they have the high-waisted ones, the low-waisted.
Mom jeans versus Britney Spears.
Yeah, dude, they could change. So I that's why I tell people to literally take a tailor's tape measure, route that thing through your belt loops like it was a belt, and then get the measurement just like that.
Okay.
That's gonna get you the optimal size. But the belts, they have we try to get as much molly on the belt as we possibly can, but they have a ton of adjustment up. So you could order a size 32 and have a 38-inch waist and wear it. It'll still work, but it won't fit optimally because the molly will be on
It'll
the
stop
other side
short.
of your head. Yeah, it'll stop short.
I mean, I can testify. I know we talked about when I got the belt from you. I'm a 32-inch waist. I got a 34, and like you said, the cinching, the way it cinched down, it fit perfect. So like, I mean, going a safe bet I always thought was like going one size bigger, you're probably going to be good from your pant size. Is that a safe bet too?
You don't want to run into that first molly coming in where that Cobra buckle attaches.
I normally tell guys the opposite of if you're right on the line, round down, because if you go, because I can wear a 34, right? I can wear a 34 belt. It'll fit around, but the buckle will be all the way against the molly, and I won't be, if I lost a little bit of weight, especially those, like a week like I'm about to do now, where I'm sweating a ton, it's South Florida, I'm probably going to need to tighten my belt up by the end. And if I went too big, I run the risk. But that is one thing that we do as well, that if you, especially guys that have lost a bunch of weight, they order, say, a size 38, and they're like, hey man, I'm now size 34, that those guys can send their belt back in, and then we can modify the actual belt system with all the right stuff. Yeah, and then we send it back to them.
That is super amazing.
Yeah, so we can, because there's guys that all the time, they're like, dude, I'm in the middle of losing weight, and I'm like, dude, don't worry about it. Order the belt, run it. If it comes to the point where you need to shrink the size, then we'll modify it for you. And
hell yeah, one for the fat boys. I love it.
Dude, I mean, that's awesome. That's just outstanding customer service. And getting into customer service, obviously, that's a big part of it. But also, and this is something that we struggle with as a podcast, and you being an entrepreneur and being a smaller business, it's nowadays people don't understand marketing, right? So we're struggling with that, trying to figure out how we're going to market. How important do you feel like right now for your business to grow? Like marketing, is it a bigger part than you thought it was going to be, or is it kind of where are you kind of on pace, or is that something you're going to ramp up?
It's definitely something I need to ramp up because I really don't do any. I tried doing some paid, and that's paid marketing. I've done some paid marketing in the past, and it kind of worked, but most of it is still coming word of mouth. So I shut it off, and then put the money into doing like some type of face-to-face event, right? So instead of spending $1,000 a month on marketing, like to Google or something like that, and now you're competing against all this other money out there. Now I'm like, hey, I'll book a flight and then go. Like this past week, I just on a whim we flew over to see LAPD SWAT. And that's
Nice.
that's my marketing dollars, you know. So now I get to shake those guys' hands, see what they actually need, what they're working with, and that's kind of where I focused the marketing dollars is kind of like, hey, shooting a comp, go to these different events, do some travel, and that's kind of where we shifted our dollars to kind of keep pushing in the word of mouth department. But we definitely we're about at the point where I can start putting some money into the actual paid marketing. But there's a few other things that, like, we need a better email list, because now I have a bunch of people that have already purchased from me that are believers. Like those are the guys that I should, you know, talk to first, and then before I just start blasting money out to Google and making them more wealthy than they already are.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of our marketing.
So you've been seeing at least what you feel like is a better return on investment from actually going out and shaking hands versus a digital push through a search engine.
Yeah. Honestly,
Awesome.
It's been a lot more successful in that way. And I think the one thing I didn't understand when I first was getting into this whole thing was that I didn't realize how much time it would take for someone to, like, get the brand awareness to then be comfortable enough to actually even purchase with you. You know, sometimes it takes people seeing you multiple times before they even will give you a shot. And I didn't really realize that, you know, because you could do that super expensive push, but I think us, you know, just building that brand awareness of, like, oh yeah, I saw Jeff at a comp. Oh yeah, these guys helped me out. Oh, this unit's running it, you know, and then before you know it, it's like, oh yeah, dude, like I'll give them a shot, you know. And I think that's helped out, and then we honestly try to just be genuine the entire time, and just kind of tell people legit, like, hey bro, sometimes it's like, yo bro, it's a 6-week lead time, I'm sorry. You know, and most guys are cool with it, and then some guys aren't. There's a few that weren't very happy, you know, or they weren't happy with the way it turned out. Like, I've refunded people and then still shipped them their belts because he was, like, flipping out, like, super upset, you know, like we messed up, and I'd rather him be like, well, they took forever, you know, and they sent me my money back, and then bam, my belt showed up anyways. So.
I mean, we hear that a lot, though. With especially like smaller shops, we have friends in the holster business. That's the same way. Like, when you can go buy a mass-produced item, great, it's made in China, and I'm not knocking any other company to make, but let's be honest, you can outsource these things and make them other countries and mass-produce, great, and you can still sell them for this high-end price, but you're making them in-house with your employees, American-made, which I commend you for, and it takes time. Quality takes time, and same thing, whether it's a holster, whether it's a belt, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be out of the gun industry. It can be anything. Like, you know, the Amazon world has made us so, like, entitled.
Lazy.
Yeah, lazy, entitled.
Yeah,
I think entitled. We're entitled to having something in 2 days or 48 hours later. But at the end of the day, like, American-made products are going to take time. And I commend you for that, not taking the easy button.
bravo.
So
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's tough. Starting a manufacturing business in the United States right now it's not easy. And then the companies that you're competing against sometimes aren't even gear companies. There are other places for your employees to work, and, like, it's tough, you know. Like, it's you know, it's hard. The materials going up, all the expenses are going up, and then you still try to make it reasonable. I mean, but if you're just looking at dollar wise, like $229 on a belt, like, yeah, I guess just dollar wise that is a decent amount of money. I mean, it's definitely worth it. It's probably going to last you your entire career, but still, like, just the environment and stuff that we're living in today, it makes it tough, but it's worth it. You know, we even made in the USA, like, we even try to source our packing material. You know, like, I'm trying to lead by example. It's hard because it would be
tough.
Way like the packing material, right? The Subsecond bag or mailer that you received, you saw it. So that's maybe a couple bucks to buy it from here in the States. If I went to China, dude, I can pay cents on the dollar.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
like 10 cents for that thing, where that would be the easy button. You know, I could immediately, but it's important for me. Even like the laser we bought, I could have bought a Chinese laser and saved half, which is
For sure.
which is a lot. But I was like, man, if I'm gonna push this made in the USA thing, I wanna lead by example and like, hey, I'm gonna buy the better laser that's made here in the U.S. that employs Americans, and yeah, it's been definitely a focus, and we try to do our best. So
Hell yeah.
Right.
Well, the last thing I want to touch on for me with your gear, of course, is I went over the belt systems, but I'm looking at everything on the site now. Again, it is subsecondllc.com. I also see where those Velcro inner belts, I mean, things happen where either they wear out or you wash them and they start losing their stick. You know, things happen, but I do see where you can buy all of the different inner belts again, and you've got the clench, the EDC, the inner belt, which is 1.5 inches, and then you've got the 2-inch inner belt. So you've got all those, and then you've got a couple other gear accessories that I'm looking at. I mean, so it looks like, yeah, you are a belt manufacturer, but you do have a couple. You are getting into a little bit of the accessories on those. Nothing mag pouch yet, which is fine because you're sticking to what you're in right now, which I agree with. But yeah, it looks like you've got quite a few things. So I definitely recommend people check you out for sure.
thanks, man. Yeah, we're coming along. Like I said, I don't want to put out anything just because oh, hey, we can make some profit. I want to solve a problem for somebody, and that's the reason I haven't come out with a mag pouch, because I could just put one out, but it wouldn't be. I want to make sure when I can talk to somebody that I can be like, hey, man, this is extremely well thought out, and I believe wholeheartedly that it's the best. And we will. That is our goal for this year, is to build out the belt line. Everything except the holster. I have no interest in doing that. Way too many pistol SKUs. Does it have a light? I can only imagine.
Hey, we got a guy for you. We got a guy for you. We'll link you up with, actually.
Yeah.
But the
that'd be
cool thing is the stuff you're making, I'm sure, you know, without spilling too much of the info, I mean, that stuff you're making it's like, if you're going to venture into it, your first R&D is going to be from you and the guys at the company, and then it's going to be friends of yours that are active in their line of work right now that are going to be able to use it, try to tear it apart, and give you constructive feedback so you perfect it. So I mean, you are doing the R&D on it, which is great, because when you do purchase less expensive things, and I'll just say Amazon for example, and I hate comparing you to that because you're not that. What they're doing is they're taking the theory or the idea of a high-end belt such as yours, and they're saying, okay, here's how they made it. They don't care what it's used for or care what it's going to be, the environment it's used in. It's just, oh, here's how they made that. So the stitching may not be as strong, it may not be as tight, it may not be all of those little details that, you know, you take a picture of it from 10 feet away and say, oh yeah, that looks like a tactical belt. Cool. Yeah, it's cool. But when you actually get your hands on it and you see the flexibility, you see the rigidity, you see the stitching and the quality, you realize, like, man, if I run this guy, you know, it's not going to last very long.
Yeah.
So if you buy that, by the time you run through it 3 or 4 times, you've already paid more than what you're paying for a quality belt like yours.
Yeah, don't buy Temu. Don't buy Temu belts, guys. They're not going to work.
This kind of bleeds right into the company, but I've never purchased something that was the best of something and then been like, you know, a year later been like, man, I wish I saved $20. You know, never, like, every single
Cry once, buy once.
And every single time I've done the opposite, though. I'm like, you know what? I could save $20. Then down a year later, I'm like, dude, why don't I just get the better one? And, you know, and it doesn't have to be tactical gear, but just in general, that's just me personally, and I kind of put that into the same as the belt. It's just like, dude, I want this. I want you to buy it, and I don't want you to buy it because you know me, or because I'm a good dude, or because I'm a veteran, or because all these other reasons. I want you to buy it because it's the best, you know. And I spent 7 years of my life just nerding out on that system, and that's why I want people to want to get that system, you know. And it makes a difference, and we stand by that. And I've never had, knock on some wood here, never had anybody hit me up like a year or two later and been like, yo dude, I'm actually not happy with it, I switched out of it to something else. So that's pretty cool.
That's a terrible curse. When you make something quality, you're kind of screwing your customer base
that
for
is
yourself, because it's, hey, you buy it from me, it's the last belt you'll ever need. You probably won't even buy another one from me.
But there's always a market. There's always a market. There's always a market. There's always new people coming up. There's always new shooters.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But that's how, buy once, cry once, man. That's what I live by.
Well, we'll say it. I mean, I'll say, because I know you probably don't want to say it, but like, there are other competitors out there, and we're not going to name names, but are tier 1 operator dudes that put their name on a belt. But we both know they're not doing what you do. They're not making them in America. They're mass producing in other countries. And I'm not saying they're subpar, but like, I commend you for being like, you know, you're putting your money where your mouth's at. You're putting like your name, you're veteran owned. And I have a problem with veteran companies, and I'll say, because I'm in the military too, and some people are afraid of it, I can't stand when a military company uses this whole veteran thing, but then outsources to China. Everything. I understand there's business and costs, but when I see a T-shirt and it has a name about veterans, but it's made in China, I'm like, don't play that card and then go mass produce everything in the country. So I commend you for that.
If you're using your veteran status as a civilian, you know, I never served, so if I want things just because I'm a nerd and I'm like, ooh, hey, this is something that could be ran, and I want to run my stuff hard. Not that I'll ever run it like those guys run it, but I want to run something hard. Like, if you use your veteran status to say, hey, I build what has been used and can be used, you know, by major military, I'm going to buy it. But if you use your veteran status and sell me junk, like, it just kind of soils the whole thing. So I'm glad that you're doing it, and that's one of the first things I asked about combat. Like, I applaud you for that, and I think that's a really cool thing that, you know, some manufacturers can say, but others, man, they can't. And you know, that's the difference with a Subsecond belt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then, you know, when it comes to support, I mean, we've made a couple mistakes. I'm not gonna. We've messed up on a couple systems and stuff like that, but we take a lot of pride in extremely fast turnarounds. And when we screw something up, we admit to it, and we take care of it immediately. Like, eventually it won't be like this, but I don't know too many companies that you can just call me on a Sunday, you know, and I'll just answer. Or
I've done it.
Just randomly just ring me up and be like, hey, I want to talk to Jeff. Like, all right, cool, here he is. You know, like, like, hey, explain this to me, you know, or why'd you do it like this or whatnot. And I'm going to try to keep that as long as I possibly can. Eventually there'll have to be some layers as you get bigger, you know.
Right.
But we're going to keep that same mindset of like, hey, you want to talk to us, you're going to talk to a human, you're going to call right in, and we're immediately going to do our best to help you out. Yeah, in America, you know. So yeah, man, it's definitely it's been fun, and we're excited to see what we can keep doing, you know.
Yeah, and I'll do the homework for everybody else. I'm on your site and I'm looking. So for anybody wondering if everything we're talking about's real, I'm looking at his customers, I'm looking at reviews, and I just picked the operator, and there's 45 total reviews that have a 5-star rating, and he unfortunately got one negative, and it was only 4 stars. No, I'm joking. Literally, like, the worst review he has out of 5 stars is 4 stars. And that's probably a guy, and I can't even find him, but that's probably a guy who never gives anything 5 stars. So literally 44 out of 45 people rated this thing 5 stars. So if you're looking for your next belt or your first belt, you know, definitely take a look at these guys.
Thanks. Yeah, and that 4-star, and I know because that pops up.
Damn it, I didn't mean to do that.
That 4-star, dude.
If that 4-star pops up, bro, I'm calling him. I'm literally, I called that guy. I know what the deal was. So it was just lead time. We were inaccurate with our lead time. So it happens sometimes. We get a little bit stretched too thin, or some things take longer, machines break, or a lot lately has been material. But yeah, so it's been so that was like, hey, awesome product. The lead time sucked. Yeah. And then I immediately got on the phone and called them up and be like, hey man, like, what could I do better? You know, how can I improve? Like, what did we mess up? Should I have let you know sooner? Like, what could I have done? And we actually got some good feedback out of it, and he was actually stoked about it. So,
dude, that's awesome to know that you got a 4-star, which is still in my book a quality work, and you're still like, yeah, hold on, let me find out what his deal is. I mean, that's a testament to you and your company. So, man, kudos to that.
Yeah, heads up.
Thank you. Thanks.
Jeff, before we wrap it up today, we want to give you an opportunity to make sure to tell everybody where to find you. So make sure to plug your website, plug your socials, drop your business email, whatever you want to do. Let the people know where they can find you and Subsecond.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, so we went over the website, subsecondllc.com. The Instagram, that's probably the social media we use the most. It's subsecond _. You could check that out. We do have a YouTube. I haven't really been getting after it too much on YouTube yet, but hopefully here soon. But it's the same thing. I think it's like Subsecond Tactical for the YouTube channel. And then the one other plug, I guess, that I'll throw in there is that we are a new program we're releasing. We haven't kind of put it out yet. You guys would be the first spot that I'm actually putting it out. But it's called it's our belt turn-in program. And essentially what it is it's literally you take any 2-piece belt system and you literally ship it back to us, and we're going to give you 20% off of your belt system. So yeah, anyone, we're going to run it for probably a month or two to see kind of how it works out, because there could be some people that are just going to Amazon, buy a $20 belt, and then they ship it in, you know. But we're kind of play it out, and then I kind of spoke backwards here on the program itself. So you go on the website, you order your belt system, you add that to the cart. That's a separate item that's free of charge. And what we didn't want to do is, especially for guys that are using it for work, we didn't want them to be down a belt, especially if the lead time changes. So we ship you the belt, and then in there we have all the return information.
Nice.
So you'll receive it in, you'll get the envelope with the return label. Once you have your new belt, you're happy with it. Now you can take all your old kit on, put it on the new belt, and then ship us back the old one, and then we're going to go ahead and refund.
They don't even have to pay for the shipping to send it back?
No, we're gonna cover it all.
Dude.
Because there's what we noticed is, like, there was a lot of guys that are like, dude, I know that's a better system, I want to get it, I can't justify the money because this one does work. And a lot of the other systems, they do work. They're maybe you're like 25%, worse or something like that, and it's like, dude, I just can't justify that money. It's tight right now. So we're trying to come up with a new way of like, hey, how can we help out the market? Because some of the parts that we can receive back in from the old belts, we'll be able to put into new products and restore and put back in. So we're pretty excited about that one, and hopefully it works out. We're going to give it a trial run and see. So
awesome, dude. Well, Jeff, man, we appreciate your time today. We appreciate what you do. Subsecond, American-made companies, guys. We're all about that. And I'm a gear, like I said, I'm a geardo. I love gear. I love kits. So I saw your belts a while ago, and I had to hit you up, man. I'm glad we got you on the show. And Jeff, man, bro, I can't wait to see you in person. I know we're going to be at some shows. We're going to GOA in Knoxville in August 17th, 18th, right, Mike?
Yep. Yes.
So I don't know if you can make it to that one or a SHOT Show or where you're going to be next, but dude, hopefully we can meet up soon and meet you in person.
Yeah.
All right.
Hell yeah. And we'll put the links, in the podcast. We will go ahead and put pop-up links to all of the sites. So check those out. And then also the link to your website will be in the bio of the podcast on all major podcast platforms and YouTube as well. So we're good to go, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks, boys. I appreciate you having me on, man. It's been awesome, and I'm excited to see you guys grow as well.
Once again, we would like to thank Jeff from Subsecond.
Right.
Come on the show, talk to us a little bit about this outfit he's running, building all of these battle belts. Man, talking to this guy, hearing his attention to detail, hearing the company outlook, his past, you add all that stuff together and you can't do anything but root for the guy and want to support him. So again, if you're looking for a new belt, if you're looking for your first belt, man, you're looking to get rid of that Temu Amazon bullshit you bought and you actually want to have something that's going to last, definitely check them out. It's subsecondllc.com. Look those guys up. And, man, you know, heck, if you got any questions, give them a call. And, man, tell them Whiskey and Windage told you to call, man. Yeah. Do that. But, man, before I close out, Matt, Adam, you guys got anything?
Bro, I just want to remind everybody that not all heroes wear capes, man. What a cool story. A real American hero building real belts in America for Americans. I love it. So thanks again to Jeff.
Adam?
So I challenge everyone right now in the comment section. Everyone listens, you guys to this point, write in the comment section, like, what belt do you currently run and what don't you like about it? Because I'll tell you right now, I am fanboying a little bit because I own a Subsecond belt and I love it. I love running it, and it has a lot of things that this belt runs that I didn't like with other belts. So to let us know, like, what belt do you like or why you think your belt's superior? And let's get a belt war. I actually want a belt war, and I want people fighting in the comment section. Like, I want this, like, let's get to it. Let's do the grand
1, 2, 3, 4. We declare a belt war.
Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Man, well, dude, I appreciate Jeff for coming on. I appreciate everything that he's bringing to it. You know, the American made, American idea, American sourced. You can't beat any of that. So, man, I got nothing else, and it wouldn't be a Whiskey and Windage podcast, Adam, if you didn't close us out, brother. Do it.
Shoot, guys, like I always say, stay dangerous, carry a weapon. We'll talk to you soon.